Episode 2 is brought to you by the following Big Dog tier members: Madison Kartner, Dana Bartriff, Karen Piles, Jay Merritt, and Amanda Stallman. Are you wanting to be more involved in the Dog Pound community? If so, please visit patreon.com/dogwithabone. For only $1 a month, you can help support Dog with a Bone. Please visit our page to learn more about the multiple tiers that could give you access to behind-the-scene content, outtakes, documents, photos, videos, and monthly live events with me. Thank you so much for your continued support and consideration. Warning: this episode contains adult content and listener discretion is advised. All views and opinions expressed by Dog with a Bone guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the host or the contributors. And welcome back to Dog with a Bone. If you have not already, please join our Dog with a Bone discussion Facebook page, where you can meet other listeners and discuss the episodes as we move through the season. There will surely be a ton to talk about. Also, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to Dog with a Bone on Spotify or wherever you listen, so you get notified when episodes are released. In the first episode, you learned about who Mackenzie was. You learned that she loved to fish. She was your typical big bossy sister, and she loved to dance. You heard from her dad, her brothers, and those who cared for her and want justice. But in this episode, I investigate the night of the fire. I want to talk to those who were there that night. Who are they? The firemen and the EMS who responded.
Fayette County 911. What's your emergency?
The fire was called into 911 by neighbors on April 27th. It was a chilly night with a low around 41 degrees. The first truck arrived at the scene at 1:59 a.m. To just give you an idea of how far away the fire department is, it is about 1.5 blocks from Marianne and Kenny's house. You can actually see the fire station if you are standing in their driveway and you look left down the street. It's right there. Jeffersonville Fire Department is a volunteer-based system, which means they travel from their homes or wherever they're at the time of the call to the fire station, put on their gear, grab their trucks, and then head to the fire. An interesting detail here, though, that I want you to keep in mind as we continue through the season is that the fire station had a red phone outside of the building, and you would just pick up that phone and it automatically called 911. When the trucks finally arrived on scene, they ran into an obstacle immediately. I initially connected with the chief of the fire department for Jeffersonville, whose name is David. He's now retired. When I was in town back in May, we drove by his house hoping to catch him. By we, I mean Mary and me. Mary is my best friend from college, and she came along to help me with my investigation. She refers to herself as, quote, tech support, end quote. But as we drove by, David's truck was in the driveway, so I pulled in next to it. As I was parking, David came out of the front door, barefoot, wondering who the hell was in his driveway. So I quickly got out and introduced myself. Hi! David stood with me in the driveway recalling the fire, and he talks about the obstacle that they ran into.
Yeah, so the call came in there, and they basically said, yeah, they looked out, and it was, I mean, it had probably good 10-minute head start on us, 15 at least.
The fire did before you got the call?
At least, because the whole front porch was, pretty much the whole front porch was fully involved. and probably about half of the downstairs. So, yeah. And then in the meantime, then the ceiling caved in.
So were you the ones that had to move the truck?
Yeah, I think my guys moved the truck, just pushed it up out of the way.
So it was kind of like the driveway, and their truck was where?
It was the house is here, facing.
Yeah.
The truck was this way. Yeah, it was.
The doors open?
Yeah, there was a door open. But like I said, there was going to be some things I won't say anything until we ever go to court. And Ricky knows that. He goes, I know, David. He said, I have more respect for you than anybody. I said, Ricky, but I can't because I know. I understand.
I want to recap real quick, though, what David said. Before the firefighters could begin to attack the fire, they needed to move a truck that was blocking their way. But whose truck would that be sitting in the way at 2 a.m.? Well, that would be Kenny's truck. My question is, why is Kenny's truck in the way at 2 a.m. with the doors open, the keys in it, and a cell phone on the seat? Where the hell were you going, Kenny and Marianne? Or were you just arriving home at 2 a.m.? David went on to tell me once they got the truck out of the way, they began to fight the fire until they discovered that this was just not a structure fire, but a little girl was stuck in the house. They quickly moved into rescue mode. Can you imagine how this felt for them? For the first 15 to 20 minutes, they are fighting this fire thinking, hey, everyone made it out okay. There's Marianne, there's Kenny, there's the dog. And then all of a sudden, they have to pivot to, oh shit, we now have an 8-year-old in there. My goodness, my heartbeat just spikes and my anxiety goes through the roof every time that I have to talk or think about this. And I wasn't even there. David and I then, of course, wrap up our conversation, and I thank David for his time and standing outside in the direct sunlight barefoot with me, but for all he has done for Mackenzie and continues to do for Donald. The next item on my list was to talk to another fireman who was on scene. I got connected with Aaron, who was a firefighter for Jeffersonville. Aaron was the first to break into Mackenzie's bedroom through her window.
There was a couple engines already on scene. I was coming from home, and I ended up showing up in the grass truck. So they had already been fighting fire. I don't know how long. It could have been 5 minutes. It could have been 10 minutes. I'm not really sure. But when I got on scene, our chief at the time came up to me and was like, "There's a person inside, so we need to do a search and rescue." So that was my first knowledge of what was going on, except that there was a structure fire. If that makes sense.
So you got there, and they were already on scene fighting the fire for about 5 to 10 minutes by the time you got there.
Yeah. So I don't think I heard any communication over the radio that said that there was a person trapped inside.
This is important because the neighbors who called 911 did not mention that a child was in the home, which is an important detail. It seems that Marianne forgot to mention this.
It wasn't until I talked to the chief when I got on scene. And from there, it was me and 2 other gentlemen. We tried to go in the front. The stairs were gone. So we tried to go in the back door through like a mud room and like a laundry room. So it was interesting, like different things happened at that fire that, you always go back to. Like, that was one of the first fires I ever went in with just a tool, for search and rescue, not a hose line, because they were attacking the fire from other spots. And I just remember going through and moving stuff out of the way, and like it was so hot that a laundry basket had melted and it had brushed up against my coat, and it was just there for years.
Wow.
Just never came, you know what I mean? So I remember it was me and 2 other guys. We went through the back doors of this area, and we got into like the main area, and it was just too hot to get in. And I remember someone saying they thought she was upstairs. So we had people. Something you got to understand about volunteer fire department, you just don't know how many people you're going to get. So I think our manpower was stretched really thin. I think people were going to get a ladder off of the fire truck, but we actually found a wooden ladder behind the house. So we put the ladder up. I was the first one up the ladder. I broke the window out, and they were like, "Are you sure?" Because I used my hand, and I had a bruise across my hand because, like, I just was trying to get in as quick as possible. You know what I mean? Like, right. Yeah, I do. I have the pain of it. I remember reaching in with my tool to make, sound in the floor, and I actually knocked a dresser over on its front, and that's how I slid in. And I was only inside the room for it seemed like forever, but it was probably in 45 seconds because I went, shut the door, and then I went back, and then I looked in the closet for her, and then I swept under the bed for her, and then my air tank started alarming.
Oh, no.
So I made it, so I had to head back to get out, and as I was getting out, the city fire department had reached the scene, and Ben, which I think you've talked to him already, he was the one in after me, and I think he ultimately found her in the bed.
Yes, yeah.
Which typically kids that are scared don't hide in bed. They go to the closet or they go under the bed. You know what I mean? That's why I went. That was my justification for going to those two places. I probably would have swept the bed afterwards when I went to the room, but for whatever reason, my alarm went off, and it wasn't meant for me to find her, supposedly. But so they found her. They were bringing her down. I think my bottle had already been changed out, and he handed her to me, and I helped take her to the ambulance where Rod and Scott were. She was just all drawn up.
Yeah.
And I always had a bad taste in my mouth because, the family was there, the boyfriend, whatever, and the window we went in was her room, but if they would have known that she was in the bed,
yeah.
Why didn't they just tell us? Because there was a window, her bed was right next to the window on the other side. And you always second guess yourself.
Sure.
Why did we put it on that window? Why didn't we just put it on the window right next to her bed? What was the justification for why we picked the window that we did? And there really wasn't one, except for that ladder happened to be behind the house. And we just put it up on the wall that it was at. So 6-8 feet difference. 4 feet walking to the left and 2 feet walking to the next window, and all you're doing is breaking the window, and right there is her bed, and you wouldn't even have to go in. We never would have had to put ourselves in danger to go in, but we always had a gut feeling that she had already had surmised, and somebody was trying to cover it up. We just all felt that something wasn't right about it. I mean, it wasn't even my kid. We just knew it was a kid, and I was stretching the limits of what I do as a firefighter to try to get to her. We always say risk a little to save a little, risk a lot to save a lot. And I think we were risking a lot to try to save her. Even if we would have gotten to her in time, I don't think it would have mattered.
According to www.keepyourfamilysafe.org, the most common places children hide to escape fire is, as Aaron mentioned, they hide in closets, under the bed, behind furniture, or near windows to escape. It is alarming to me that Mackenzie didn't seek any of these places to hide, but instead, she laid on her bed, even though she had 2 windows in her room that she could have used to escape. So the question really is, why didn't she? And there wasn't already a ladder up when you got there. You found the ladder.
No, but they had a ladder at the house, behind the house. I mean, that's what we used. I didn't use one off the truck. Literally, we picked it up off the ground. It was leaning against the house. That makes no sense to me. You just, that's like winning the lotto. You already have a ladder there. and you to go save your kid. You know what I mean? Like,
Where was the ladder? It was just laying there or up against the garage?
it was laying against the back of the house. Like, it had been there for a while, I believe. Of course, it's dark, so
Right.
it wasn't up. It was laying on its side against the back of the house.
Okay. And
Like, right there. Because I was like, oh, like, because we're like, go get a ladder. And they went to get a ladder, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm just going to use this one. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not even a parent yet, but I'm like trying to work a problem, and this presents itself. Like, why wouldn't I try?
Right. Right.
So,
right. And he wasn't there like, we have ladders. You never saw him?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
We know that Marianne and Kenny survived the fire, but Aaron didn't see them at the scene. So I asked Aaron, hey, have you had any other prior experiences involving children who were stuck inside a home with the parents waiting for their child to be rescued? Here's what he had to say.
In 2014, September of 2014, I became the fire chief. And December 26th, we had a structure fire where 3 little boys and their grandma died in the house. And they were all over the place trying to get out. Like, nobody was where you thought, but nobody was in a bedroom. You know what I mean? Like, they were all trying to get out.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think a 13-year-old and the grandma were close to the door, but nothing. I mean, people were going freaking nuts at that scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The 911, there's a fire, there's a house on fire. Why isn't the fire department there? A lady that had gone outside and was smoking and just happened to see it. And the parents lived 2 houses down, and we had to restrain them so they wouldn't try to go into the house.
So a very different reaction than Marianne and Kenny.
Very different reaction. And like I said, at the time I was a firefighter when Mackenzie died. I wasn't part of the decision-making people out front that had talked to the parents, but, hearing these people talk, nobody had a good feeling about them. You know what I mean? It just didn't sit right. Like, they weren't acting like they should have. I remember I dropped my air pack because I was an EMT at the time. I thought, okay, well, we got firefighters, now we need medical, because we always people over property. And then just knew that she was not a viable patient. So
Was she pretty hot to the touch?
She was very hot. The cot that we used for years had an indentation where her head was in the plastic that goes on the cot.
Yeah, really.
It's not built for comfort, but you never get over something like that. But you kind of just put it away, and then you go on a squad run 5 years later, and you're changing the sheet, and you still see that indentation in the pad, and you just remember it, and it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it was hot enough that it left a permanent impression in the cot pad.
I think it comes in flashes, right? Like you go on calls and you move on and you do more, and then something reminds you of her, of that situation.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean,
it doesn't sit right.
I didn't have kids yet. I wasn't married, so emergency events were different. But that one was always something that stuck out. That you just were hoping something was going to come up with it. I mean, I think they could prove that there was accelerants poured, but I mean, it's Jeffersonville, Ohio. It's not like an area where there's drug trafficking and cartels and people are burning people's houses down because they did them wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's kind of a violent action to go into a house and pour an accelerant and light the house on fire.
And to be sleeping, right? And they had a dog that was very vicious. There'd be no way.
Yeah.
So, do you remember, was her clothing wet at all? Was she wet at all? Or was she just dry and hot?
That's a great question. I do not remember her being wet because I don't think we ever sprayed water into that room.
Okay.
Because one, I think it was still intact. But two, if you think there's a person in there and you start hitting it with water, it just superheats the water, and it could melt your skin. So.
Oh, jeez.
So I don't think there was no fire in the room. There was fire in the bathroom, I think, across from her room. When we went in, we shut the door. But I don't think she was wet at all. I think she was just hot. And I just remember her hands being retracted up, not toward her face, but if you were going to hold a basketball in front of you and your elbows are in and that's just kind of what she looked like.
And she was so small.
Very tiny. Yeah. If she knew that she couldn't go anywhere, and realistically, there was nowhere else to go except to stay in her room, she would have hidden in it was hot in that room, for sure. So, is it possible she tried to get under her blankets to protect herself from the heat? Who knows what a little kid that has seen different movies or had different experiences would do. But typically, every time we would do vent entry search, which was, started to get really big at that time, kids were going to be in the closet or hiding under the bed, just trying to stay, to protect themselves. Even if you're a little kid, your survival instincts kick in, and you're going out the window, I would assume.
Yeah.
But
and she knew that. She knew that. Her bedroom door was open. You had to close it.
I remember the door being open and seeing the fire in a bathroom in the hallway across. So we shut the door. That's just the first thing you do when you enter a room. Because I don't know if you've ever seen those ULN training videos where they leave the door of a house open or a bedroom open, and they catch the living room on fire and what it does to that room, and then they shut the door, and how survivable it is to be in that room with the door shut. So anytime we would do a search of a room, the first thing we do is we go in and we shut the door, because that gives us more time.
Got it. Okay, so having her door open increased her risk.
Yeah. Because you got chemicals in the air, and call it an IDLH environment. It's a hazardous place to be in. So anytime you can mitigate some of that risk by closing the door, protecting yourself, it's good.
I'm assuming she would have tried to do that if she could.
Probably. Or hid somewhere with the door closed.
Yeah.
You know how it is. You have a fire and it hits your face and you put your hand up to block the heat from your face.
We wrapped up our call, but before we hung up, he also mentioned to me how the community has responded to the investigation.
I know that there was a lot of people in the community frustrated with how it was handled. I hope you figure something out, or you find a loophole or whatever, because she certainly deserves it.
She does, and that's my goal. That's my goal.
Well, you do it, girl.
The next person I wanted to speak with was the man who pulled Mackenzie out of her bedroom, and that would be Ben. Ben is a fireman at Washington Courthouse. When I was back there in February, I got a chance to sit down and talk with Ben. Ben calls a spade, and I can appreciate that. He's kind of badass in my opinion. Ben brought me and my friend Mary back into the office inside the fire department, and we just sat around a table and had a discussion about what he recalled about that night. Ben was dressed and ready to go at any point should the next alarm be sounded. I think I was more nervous about making sure to get all of my questions asked before any alarm could sound. But Ben, he sat there, cool as can be, and he was engaged and he was ready to help answer any questions I had. I could also see, though, through the toughness, the heartache on his face when he recalled that night and the high of finding Mackenzie and the low of finding out that she was already dead.
up mutual aid, which means they called for help.
Okay.
So we responded. I was not an officer at that point, so we ride in the back. I have a captain, the driver, I think two guys in the back with me. So we show up. If I remember correctly, we did have reports of somebody inside still. But at that time, I don't think I realized it was a child, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not that that changes our actions, but...
Right. And that could be true because I think Jeffersonville, they were already there trying to fight the
Yes,
fire.
Jeffersonville was already on scene.
So do you recall that fire? Was it in the front, more in the front of the house than the back? Or do you remember?
I do remember... I don't think we ever went interior as far as our crew. But I do remember the bedroom was... almost positive was on the back side of the house. Jeffersonville already had that window laddered. So we entered, went left, hit a bed, found her on the bed.
Okay. And could you see it all? Or was
No,
this,
100% no. She's feeling.
was it only you in there?
I had a guy at the window, so I was the only one that went into the window.
And how big was the room, would you say? How long did it take you to find her?
Not very long. I went left. She was on a bed, right there.
So you pretty quickly you found her?
Yes. Well, I mean, you search and swing, find a bed. I felt her. Actually, I knew, and I'm going to say this wrong, I used to have this ingrained in my brain, which I'm kind of glad I don't anymore.
Yeah, right.
But I knew which way she was laying, face up or face down, by the way her foot was laying, in my mind.
You just pulled her?
Grabbed her, handed her to the guy at the ladder.
So when you pulled her off you pulled her off by the leg?
No, I think I just scooped her up, honestly. And quite honestly, at that point, I think she was a little stiff, if that sounds, it sounds very bad,
this
but
is what we do, right.
so I handed it to the guy and he's like, is this her? I said, I hope so. I mean, there was no other option,
Right. And so she's really small. She was really small.
I think she's what, 9 at the time?
8.
8.
Yeah.
So then handed her to her, took her down the ladder, put her in the squad. Or at that point I was just getting out. Once I handed her off, they took her. And then my captain actually took my feet. I remember this. And I mean, he took my feet and put it on each rung because I was an adrenaline rush, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Actually, I was pretty excited. I was
Yeah.
probably cussing a lot. It's we got her, that kind of stuff. But
You were excited.
at that point in time, it was obviously, we found her way too late.
Did you know she was dead when you grabbed her?
I mean, I wouldn't say no. I'm not really.
You were kind of hopeful?
Yeah, I guess. You always are. Probably should have known just by the rigidity of her body that it was obviously too far, but...
But excited you found her.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
I was. So, I mean, Donald thanked me for years. At least he has something to bury.
Yeah, he is.
Sadly enough.
Very appreciative of.
Yeah.
He
was around for a long time. They did fundraisers and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I felt like I haven't seen him in a while, honestly, but...
Yeah, he was here yesterday. He just
Okay.
talked so highly of you, and he's like, you rescued his girl, even. And when you handed her off, do you remember if she was wet, dry? Was the
I don't think they had any water to that point yet.
back there? I think it was in
Right,
the front,
right.
So she was dry to you. She wasn't. You didn't feel wet.
Yeah.
You had all the clothes.
Yeah, I mean, the clothes were probably melted and burned. I don't really know.
Okay.
Physically, I never saw her, which I'm glad, if that makes sense, because it was blackout conditions, but...
Did you see Marianne and Kenny when you got there?
I would not even know who they were now,
Really?
if that makes
Okay.
sense. So no. I mean, it's chaotic, if you can imagine.
You're there to just.
I'm not there to look at who's around. I mean, I guess initially as an officer now, if it was something sketchy, I'd kind of take a look around. But I was in the back seat ready to work, so I just get a job and go do it.
Okay. And thankfully you did.
I'm thinking as a parent, if my kid was in there, when
Right.
I would be
It's a little odd,
she's
isn't
in
it?
there,
Yes.
she's in there.
You think that would be initially your... I mean, I'm the first one to admit there's a lot of sketchy stuff that happens, so it's
yeah.
I would probably be dead if my kid was in there. I got 2 boys, that makes sense?
Yes.
That's
Or
what
I'd be
was-
at the back window screaming
Yes.
Yes.
And that's what I'm wondering
Yes.
if that happened.
I mean, not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I encountered.
Was that your first save or?
I wouldn't call that one a save. I mean, I saved a kid in ice and stuff like that, but that might have been my first legit. I don't consider that save. We just found
But
it.
I think it is. I think it's a save.
Oh, I'm glad I was there.
That's what I'm
Promise
saying.
you.
I think you saved her. Because if we didn't
Yeah.
have that body, right, we wouldn't have what we have.
Yeah.
So you did a lot. Did you ever talk to the mom? Did she ever come thank you for saving her?
I don't know if I ever met her. Didn't they leave for a little while right after that and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Donald has come to thank you.
Oh, 100. I mean, yeah, he was around a lot.
Right.
I mean,
and I think that says a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
your mom,
Oh,
why wouldn't she come thank you, at least saving her in that sense of getting her out?
right.
They have someone to bury.
Yeah, I agree with that. Donald was around a lot. The mom, I don't know. I mean, I may have met her. I mean, Donald put on gave us medals and he did all kinds of stuff.
He's such a.
It's all right, bud. Love you, but we're good. Take care of yourself. No, in a good way, if that makes sense.
The last person I wanted to talk with about that night, his name is Scott. Scott was working with EMS at the time, and he's the one who drove Mackenzie to the hospital after receiving her from Ben.
Well, it's been so long ago. I remember one of the firefighters had brought her. Somebody had said that they had found her in the house, and the way the apparatuses were set up for the fire department, we were a few back, and then they carried her to the truck, and they placed her on the cot, and they wheeled her in the cot, wheeled the cot in the back of the truck, and as soon as she was wheeled in the truck, we knew that she was not viable.
Yeah. You transported her to the hospital, is that right?
Yes.
And Dr. Gay is the one who took her from there?
Yeah, Dr. Gay was the coroner. He asked us to bring her to the hospital, and we brought her to the hospital and then turned the body over to him.
Was he at the scene in the back of the ambulance with you all, or did you just meet him there?
No, we met him at the hospital. He had talked to Rod, which was our captain at the time. He had talked to him on the phone, and then since she was already in the truck, she was removed from the scene, which we didn't know they were going to pull her out of the scene. He just had her bring us into the hospital.
I wasn't sure about that either. I spent some time with Vernon, the sheriff. He said, too, that then he followed her to the hospital with you all.
Yeah, Vernon was behind us when we got to the hospital, yeah.
And did her mom or anyone go with Mackenzie?
No. Her mother and I believe it was her boyfriend that was living there with her. They had left the scene. We never even spoke to them. They were gone by the time we got on scene.
What?
Yeah, they weren't even on scene that we could see. And then we asked about the rest of the family that was in the house, and we were told, I don't know what sheriff's deputy told us, but that they had already departed with some friends or something. They got away from the scene. It was kind of weird to us, too.
That's very weird as a mother, to just leave and not want to follow along.
Nobody was at the hospital waiting for us, and there was still nobody there when we left.
This was a really hard episode to record, and I'm sure for you to listen to. But it's so important that we hear from the professionals who were on scene that night. And since we've heard from the professionals, heard from Donald, it's time that we hear from one of the two people who survived the fire that night. And that would be Mary Ann, Mackenzie's mom. Next time on Dog with a Bone.
I didn't say she was ready. I said she knew. I'm not saying that she was. I'm saying 100% without a doubt. When it came time, she did not suffer. She knew where she was going, and she knew that she was going to a better place.
Dog with a Bone is hosted by Melissa Sandberg, investigated, produced, and written by Melissa Sandberg. Additional writing by Caitlin Sandberg. Edited by Jason Sandberg. Mixed and mastered by Morrow Mixing and Mastering. Theme music by Alex Yukich. Dog with a Bone is a Sasquatch production.